can start. So what's SELs? It stands for Sustainable European Laboratories, and it's a network that was formed last year with the idea of bringing together as many Green Lab initiatives and Green Lab enthusiasts as possible in Europe. I want to point out that we are a grassroots organization and that the initial effort to bring this network into life was made by very passionate members of these initiatives listed here, and from who we will hear about more in the next hour, and with the initial financial support of IBRO and FENS. What's our mission and how we are structured? So the main question is why we created SELs. We can see that more and more scientists now realize that doing research has a significant environmental impact and they want to do something about it. But we all recognize the lack and the need of a central structure that could promote, coordinate, and support sustainable actions in research across Europe. It's exciting to see how many green labs and initiatives have been forming all over the world and especially in Europe. But we are all aware that not everyone has access to the same resources or access to the same to the required information and support to create such initiatives. So what's our vision then? First, we created like a website that we want to use as a central hub to collect resources and knowledge so that they are free, available to everyone, and all together in one place, which makes it easier, especially for new people to find what they need. Second, we want to help you either starting your own group or initiative or connect you to existing teams. Third, we want to create collaboration between all these initiatives that already exist so that everyone can benefit from each other's expertise. And finally, we hope to form this great collective of sustainability experts with a unified voice so that we can effectively influence policymakers and key stakeholders and have kind of a Europe-wide top-down support of sustainability in science. Here I want to show you how we imagine the different layers to be within the network. So everyone is welcome, even if you are alone. We can either help you start your own green team or put you in contact with other green teams near you, if there's any. The idea is that smaller groups can join to form larger networks, kind of going up the pyramid, up to the creation of what we call regional networks. So these regional networks will be formed by many local groups. It can be defined by either geographical location, such as Green Lab Netherlands, Green Lab Austria, the Lean UK, or by discipline, for example, like a neuroscience organization. In this way, the resources that will be created can be tailored to better meet the needs of the group, since policy might be different between countries or topics of interest can vary between disciplines. And as I mentioned before, the ultimate goal is then to bring everyone together and influence sustainability policies at the European level. So the general idea is that everyone will benefit from the resources made for them and also from the one available from the levels above. And one thing I want to make clear is that we don't want to absorb and label everyone with the SELs name. We actually recognize the importance of having local and national groups across Europe, and we would just want to promote and help them to work all together. In the next couple of slides, I will give you just some examples of action that we have already taken or we plan to take in the near future. As I mentioned before, we have created a website that where we want to collate all the resources available that can be easily found. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, and we plan to use all the material that is already there. For example, Green Lab Austria has a great guide on how to recycle plastic. Lean UK has put together a guide on how to start your sustainability group. But at the same time, we also want to create new material that we think is needed, and we try to make everything as standardized as possible. Second, we aim to organize workshops, networking events, and trainings on research sustainability, which will be free for the SELs members. At the moment, we have already made 2 training videos, which are available on our website, one on plastic and one of the energy use for labs. Another big focus for us is helping organizations to run conference more sustainably. You probably know that in-person international conferences have a very high carbon footprint. So we aim to provide support during the organizational phase, and at the same time collect data and write reports and guidelines that could be used as best practice for future events. At the moment, we have already a collaboration in place with Defense Forum. Specifically, we will run a session on sustainability for neuroscience laboratories and provide also some data analysis on the carbon footprint of this event. And we aim to do this for more and more events and to help all our members with their own conferences. Then we are all scientists, probably. We love data, but unfortunately, there's not much out there about sustainable practices for laboratories. So we hope to fill the gap with the help of our members. Some of our founding members have already given some great contribution with opinion and research articles, but definitely we need a lot more. So we hope that all of us will create new and fantastic research. A very important goal for us is the ability to assess the level of sustainability in research institutions across Europe. One way to do it is through our partner program LIFT, which will be explained in more detail in the next presentation. But the ultimate goal for us is to be able to set up some standard criteria so that we can accurately evaluate the state of sustainability in science across discipline, across country, and for the whole Europe. And finally, we believe that the more we are, the better. So we will actively reach out to as many initiatives and groups as possible and try to link all the groups together in the best way. And we would like to have all our members to contribute to the creation of resources such as the newsletter that we aim to share in the future, which will be a great way to see what everyone is doing and learn from each other. So this is just a general overview. With this, I finish my presentation. As I said, we will answer questions in the second part. We look forward to hearing what you think and your ideas. And now I'll pass it on to Martin Farley from University College London, who will explain what LIF is about and how it can help you to achieve amazing sustainability targets in the lab.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Valeria. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see such a fantastic turnout. My name is Martin Farley. I'm going to give you guys a quick introduction to LIF and a little update as to where we're at. And I work in London at UCL and King's College London. To take a very broad step back, I think nobody needs me to say this, but you've probably heard a lot about net zero in the news. You know, we had COP26 just a few months ago, and everybody was talking about, you know, our net zero targets and 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius. And you know, in the UK in particular, we have a net zero target for 2050, and I know a lot of other countries around Europe have similar targets in this space. And we can see that actually probably the most exciting is that this is cascaded down to a lot of institutions. And you know, the one we really need to mention is our biggest funder in the UK, which is UK Research and Innovation. So UKRI down there at the bottom left set a net zero target for 2040. You can see a lot of companies now are following suit and setting net zero targets. And of course, the institutions that we work at, as I mentioned, are setting net zero targets, which is fantastic, really. You know, it shows that we're going the right direction with this work. Really, yeah, the fact that this major funder has done it has really been amazing. Though I can't stress that enough, the good work that they're doing, the folks at NERC who have done this. And for us in our institutions, though, you know, the reason that we're talking about sciences and that, you know, NERC and UKRI have looked at this space is this is the carbon emissions that we see from UCL. And we see that, you know, this is the total carbon emissions. And it was really tough to estimate these things because we don't know the full embodied carbon when we buy products. But you can see that energy, this blue slice here, and that the majority of our carbon emissions come from what we buy, and about half the emissions from our energy, about half the emissions from what we buy are coming from our science facilities. So really, if we're going to deal with achieving net zero in these institutions, labs and science facilities are the big target. It's the area that we need to make inroads and to make progress in. Oh, very quick, I just need to say, and the funders haven't just said that they're going to go to net zero. It's kind of an exciting time in the sense that, and this grant just closed a few days ago, but the MRC actually said they were going to fund research for determining how we're going to get there, which is just so important to highlight, that this is not just setting the targets, but they're actually funding research to figure out how we're going to get there, because we don't always have the answers. We don't know exactly how to do net zero science or the feasibility of some of these things. So I think it was really exciting to see that the funders have put some money in this direction, and it shows that it's being taken seriously at really the highest level. So I would say is that to get to these places, with the timeline that we have, and I know the IPCC report just came out and it was pretty grim if you had some to look at it. I would argue is that we need standards and we need them immediately to get there. The best analogy I'll give is just health and safety, is that we have common standards in health and safety that we work against, and people self-assess against them, and they work against those and well with them, and they achieve safe science, hopefully. Same for gender equality. In the UK, when they wanted to promote gender equality in the sciences, they mandated that it was attached with research funding, that you took part in the Athena Swan program. I would say is that, with sustainability, we need the exact same thing. We need standards. We don't have the time for that to, it's a voluntary program currently. So, if these standards were in place, then everybody would take part and we would get there a lot quicker, which is exactly what we need. That's why we were working on LEAF from UCL, and LEAF is essentially a standard in sustainable lab operations. So it looks at actions you can take in the lab, and it breaks them up in different categories. We've got some on research quality, some on procurement, samples, etc. Things that you might expect. The criteria are broken up in bronze, silver, gold. It's a user-led initiative, and it's got some calculators in it which allow you to quantify these things, because actually when you do these things, as we found in our pilot, you actually save a fair bit of money, you save some carbon, and you have a good story to tell. And that helps motivate others to take actions in these spaces. And that's part of why we're helping quantify in those areas. And yeah, we had a great story to tell from the pilot when we were piloting this a few years ago. In case you're wondering what LEAF might look like, I mean, this isn't exactly what it looks like. This is just an outline with some examples, but it's some examples that you might be asked to take, and you can see how it's sort of broken up in different categories. And that's not all the criteria, but I just wanted to show you that. And you can see Suraj there. If anybody's met Suraj, she is an absolute star. I just need to point out, from Oxford, goes above and beyond. Unbelievable. She takes so much time to make sure that School of Pathology is sustainable. And anyways, just a great person if you ever get a chance to meet her. But yeah, this is some of the things that you can expect to do if you're taking part in LEAF. Within LEAF, we've got some resources and they're linked in. But these are the type of things that we'd love to develop together too. This is part of why we have SELs, and this is part of what we did in the past, was to collectively come together to give all the good examples that we could find on, for example, plastics and consumables, which you can find online at that website. And we could put the link in the chat. But if you want some of our resources, there's some on equipment and how to recycle and etc., so that not everything goes in clinical waste, and how to track things when people leave the lab and etc. But yeah, they're all on there. And we recognize that the guidance is really important in this space, as well as the targets. Very quickly, I'm just going to give it a fun update on LEAF, which is that I realized, actually putting this talk together, that it's been a year that we've been online, basically from now, which is kind of crazy. We launched last year, and Bristol became the first institution that I know of in the world that got 100% uptake in terms of a Green Lab program. So really kudos to the folks at Bristol and Anna Lewis, who leads the program over there. We have now 60 institutions which have signed up from, I think, 10 countries. We checked, we have last night 1,400 users from 830 labs, which blew my mind, really. That is fantastic in the uptake, and it just shows people really want to take action in this space. And we've been supported by some great folks. Need to mention the UKRN, which is the UK Reproducibility Network, and they really focused on research quality and reproducibility in the UK, in recognition that reproducible science is more sustainable. I'll stop there, but it's a great to be working with these folks and the connection that they've made. Just want to highlight some good stories really quickly, because yeah, I think it's worth mentioning. You know, the National Technician Development Centre in the UK, they support technical staff in labs, and often it's technicians that are on the forefront of really managing lab spaces to ensure that they're sustainable and efficient. They teach us how to use the equipment and ensure that our results are comparable often. And they're running a pilot of LEAF now, which is going to wrap up pretty soon with 5 institutions. And we're really looking at upskilling the technical staff and supporting them, because, you know, technicians really need support in this space and are really just such an important part of ensuring that science is sustainable in the future. I want to mention that the Medical Research Council has been really great, and they have been putting LEAF in their main centers, which is just incredible. And they're also the ones that happen to fund that research I mentioned. And I also need to mention yesterday Exeter just announced that they got 100% uptake of LEAF, which is incredible. I need to mention Daniela Farina, who's really led the program over there. She's a lab manager who's been seconded over to take action in this space, and she really built a sense of community over there. And they're looking to all get to silver in the next 12 months, and it's just, you know, unbelievable, the stuff that she's been able to do, and that a lot of it actually was through the technical community, I have to say, at Exeter, which I thought was a really nice story. I just want to mention the sense of, you know, in running LEAF, it's often focused on individuals, and in time I've really realized the important sense of community and engaging folks together. And to be honest, that's in part why it's so great to work with SELs. You know, everybody that you're going to hear from today is really engaged on this topic and really just wants to do good. And that sense of community is really, I think, what's brought LEAF in some ways so far, is bringing it together on the table so that people discuss these things. And setting targets is really important, but, you know, bringing people together to really talk about these things, it's what carries it forward. And that's at the University of Copenhagen on the left, and that was in an elevator there, and you can see Nicolijn on the left, who's leading the program. And I don't know, just seeing it in an elevator was I just thought incredible. I know it's silly, but and then seeing that LEAF was able to go to the British Antarctic Survey all the way in some labs in the Antarctica. So I thought that was yeah, it just was incredible to see. And you know, the experiences from folks has been really positive, and we're just kind of excited to keep supporting folks in this space and seeing what comes next. But yeah, it's just to say is that building that sense of community and having a group approach to this, I think, is just so important, and makes it fun, because that's in part what we have that maybe health and safety has a little bit less of, is that fun side. That's actually it for myself. Too many people to thank, but yeah, thank you to everybody that's taking part. Thank you everybody at SELs and FENS, and everybody attending today, and everybody who's been supporting the program. And if you want to learn more, you can find out and just drop me an email, but check out the website and we'll put it in the chat. And now I'm going to hand over to Green Labs Netherlands, who have some fantastic stories to share as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. All right, so just take over and share my screen. Hi everyone, so my name is Hannah, and I'm here today to represent Green Labs Netherlands and tell you a little bit about what we're doing over there. So Green Labs Netherlands, as you saw from the start of the session, we are one of the founding networks that have come together with some of these others that you'll hear from soon to bring about SELs. But we're excited to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in the Netherlands. So we kind of started Green Labs Netherlands as a group of kind of members of the scientific community doing our own thing in our own areas, doing kind of local initiatives. And we saw that around Europe, there were a few things going on at more national, regional levels. And we thought, well, that'd be great to also do in the Netherlands. So we decided to combine, and we started Green Labs Netherlands. And our mission is to provide a network for the Dutch scientific community and work towards embedding sustainability as a key foundation of scientific research in the Netherlands. And some of the ways that we want to do that, so by sharing resources, so maybe Netherlands specific resources, but of course giving access and easy to find places for all of these resources coming out of these other networks and initiatives as well. So we have a website that we're currently working on at the moment. We hold community events fairly regularly for people in not just the Dutch scientific community, but it's generally open to all, where we might focus on a particular topic. We want to aim to run a couple of projects, a couple of which we'll talk about in a minute. So some of these are like the LEAF project, which I'll talk about, the Sustainable Research Symposium, and this year we're looking to maybe go towards an educational project to really get involved with some of the actual educational institutes and get some sustainability modules into the actual course, and of course research. So we want to be able to do this in the Netherlands level by bringing together local initiatives to do some research, as we know it's much needed in this part of the scientific community, but also it's the point of being with SELs that we can do this all together as well. So as I said, we were all members of the Dutch scientific community, coming from a few different institutes, and we were all doing things locally. And we've been going for about a year now, and yeah, we just decided to come together, and we've been slowly building. So we're all doing things at our own local level, but then looking to do things on a national level too. So one of the projects I just wanted to tell you a little bit about that we started with was actually using LEAF, because we heard a lot about LEAF and the great things that they were able to do with the pilot in a lot of these UK institutes. And we thought, okay, well, this is really interesting. How applicable is it to the Dutch research settings? That's what we wanted to see. And so that's where we decided to kind of put this project together, and we actually managed to get support from the Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sport in the Netherlands. As part of their Green Deal, they're looking a lot at trying to make healthcare more sustainable, and they were able to kind of take us along with that and say, well, you know, a lot of the healthcare institutes do have research as part of that. So we were able to get a bit of funding to run this project. And so what we decided to do is we started it out in just, we've broken it up into 2 phases, and we started out with just 4 institutes in phase 1. And one of the things we wanted to do was these institutes are all a little bit different in size and makeup, and see, you know, trying to get the Dutch scientific community to take on a sustainable lab program such as LEAF. What does this look like? What does it entail? You know, can we think of some best practices? And so we picked 4 of the institutes that were associated with members of the team as well, and we decided in September last year to start rolling this out. And so in phase 1, it was quite successful. We managed to get all of these 4 institutes on board. So in the first kind of month and a half, the first phase of the pilot only ran for between October and December. We managed to get 24 labs signed up. And quite quickly, 5 of those were able to achieve bronze with actions they were doing already or able to quite quickly implement. And now we're kind of looking to carry on. So from going on from December, when we finished the first phase of the pilot, we now have 29 labs signed up, and 7 with bronze and 1 with silver already for the beginning of 2022. And so it was really exciting to see that this was quite easy to implement in the Netherlands already. And so we're now moving into phase 2 of the project. And this is where we've taken the 4 institutes, and we will carry on kind of expanding this, trying to get as many institutes on board. And we'd love to be able to get, you know, one of the Dutch institutes as the 3rd institute to be completely certified. Would be really amazing behind Bristol and the other ones. But we're also going to roll it out to some additional institutes. The aim would be to get as many Dutch public research organisations on board and using a lab sustainable programme such as LEAF as possible. So that's what we're doing at the moment. So we aim in the phase 2 of the pilot to get at least another 10. I think we have about another 7 just about to sign up, which is really great. So we're nearly there for that already. And from this part of the phase, we're going to really look at, you know, some of the quantitative analysis to look at what they were able to do in the UK with the pilot, with the monetary and CO2 savings, and if we can replicate some of that. We've also reported, we published a report as well at the end of last year in phase 1, just kind of best practices and what we learned about, you know, introducing a lab sustainable program, so we can share that as well in the chat. And just some best practices on things like, you know, getting a lab sustainable program set up in your institute, or maybe starting a green team, because we saw that in the Netherlands, green teams were very paramount to how introducing something like this worked, and like the difference between, you know, bottom up and top down and things like this. So we're kind of creating some best practices around that, just to give people advice, which we are also open to the whole international community to be able to see. And of course, if we can, as the Green Labs Netherlands, to provide some maybe Netherlands specific resources that, you know, of course, things do vary from region to region, so maybe we need some resources that are a bit more tailored to the Netherlands. So that's what we're working to do, which we will be putting up on our website. So yeah, so that's a little bit about one of the projects we did, and I will hand over to my colleague Gabriella, who will talk about our next project.
Yes, thanks, Hannah, and hello, everybody. So, well, as you just heard, my name is Gabriella, and I'm a member of the team who is organizing the Sustainable Research Symposium this year. The Sustainable Research Symposium is basically a one-day event aiming to inform, well, everybody who is somehow interested in sustainable science about different topics related to, well, how we can make research more environmentally responsible. The symposium will take place on May 19, and it will be in a hybrid setting, so you can join both online or in person at our location in Utrecht in the Netherlands. Well, I am really looking forward to it. I think it will be a day full of very interesting talks, for example, about sustainability criteria in research funding, or about how to communicate efficiently when you want to promote sustainability in science to your colleagues or in your institute. And of course, also about innovative sustainable projects which are being implemented in different labs around Europe. We will also have a panel discussion, and that will be about sustainability of scientific conferences. And on top, we are actually collaborating with SELs in order to collect data about what is the footprint of attending this symposium, both online and also in person. So we hope that we will be able to present some nice results about this and use this data, well, for recommendations on how to decrease footprint of scientific meetings in the future. And we are very happy that we have SELs as our partner, and we also hope that through SELs we will be able to support the team which will organize this symposium next year, because this symposium is a traveling event with a new organizing team every year. Last year organized by the CPR Goes Green and ABBA Sustain. I saw that they are also today here, so hello. And well, so now we are basically looking for the team for the 2023 edition. And if all this sounds interesting to you, you are of course very much welcome to register through our website, which you can see here on the screen. And we would be also very grateful if you could share this event within your network. And if you have a project which somehow is aimed on decreasing the footprint of your research and you would like to share with the community, you can also submit an abstract and present a poster during the symposium. And well, I hope to see you all there. Yeah, and that's basically all from us from the Green Labs Netherlands. Thank you all for your attention. And we will give the floor to the next speaker, which is Melina from Green Labs Austria.
And I would like to share with you today some information about how we started our initiative and what this initiative is all about, and present our network. So we are a regional network that's comprised by 34 member labs from research institutes and companies around Austria. We're expanding, and we are basically a network that aims to connect a total grassroots bottom-up initiative aiming to connect laboratories in Austria that share the vision of a more sustainable research. And I will explain a little bit about what this is all about in a second. So some background, how did we all start? As I said, we're a totally grassroots initiative. We were basically a bunch of PhDs and postdocs and staff scientists from different lab groups, and they based more predominantly in the University of Vienna. And we saw this initiative came out of this contrast that we were encountering in our everyday lives. A lot of us were active in our personal life, in Fridays for Future or Scientists for Future or any sort of activism outside the lab, but then we were faced with basically the grim realities of scientific research, right? So we wanted to identify and implement. Our primary goals was to identify and implement sustainable lab practices. We could and connect with other labs to share and learn. And that's how Green Labs Austria was born in 2019. So I'm just going to walk through how we did it in identifying our problems, taking action, and then creating networks such as SELs to maximize our impact. So this all started, as for most of you also, with a lot of background research, because as Martin also mentioned, we are lacking a lot of data. So the big topics that we had to tackle was basically energy and waste. And you don't need me to tell you, but laboratories are, life science laboratories are huge energy consumers. This is a graph out from values from the National Resources in University here in Vienna that calculated that the average energy uses of a lab per year is multiple times that of an average Austrian household. I'm not going to talk about how we are tackling that. I'm sure we all are sharing resources and are following the same strategies here. I would mostly like to focus on the problem of waste, the problem of plastic waste in laboratories. As you all know, we're also lacking data here, right? If we wanted to quantify how much if we wanted to look up values about how much lab waste an average lab produces, the only data available, as you know, are from 2015, from a little paragraph in Nature from Urbina et al. There have been no other estimates since, or very few. So we wanted to perform our own study to quantify our own plastic waste and find ways to tackle this in Austria, to reduce, reuse, and recycle, the golden triad. So what do? We quantified our waste. We collected our waste from 1 week of lab work from 12 scientists, and we're encountered with these huge, very pretty here, piles of trash, in which you will identify standard items that everyone is using, at least in life sciences. So where do we go from here? We had to identify which of these could be replaced. You can easily see some items that can be replaced by glassware, but what about all the rest? What can we even do with it? With this, we had to do some more background research on the types of plastics that there are, that these items are composed of. And you can see here the different types of plastic. And here you can see the different types of plastic that can be easily recyclable, because not everything, unfortunately, is recyclable, at least in Austria. So when we broke down our plastic, which came up to 26 kilograms of plastic per week, we found out that thankfully about half of it, 11 kilograms, about half of the plastic we produced in a week could be recyclable, which would amount to 600 kilograms of plastic per year for an average microbiology lab, which is not nothing, right? To broaden this up, we asked other labs to join, and we coordinated plastic studies in different labs in Vienna. And we will share the data of like the actual numbers with you in soon, hopefully soon. Okay, so what do we do from here? We know we can produce a lot of plastic, and we know that at least half of that plastic can be recycled in theory. What do we do about that? We went ahead and established a plastic recycling pipeline, which we are sharing on our website and sharing information with anyone who would care to actually apply this. Which comprises of 3 basically simple steps: identifying the types of plastic. I talked about this a little bit already. Considering as well that we're working with biological material and certain items need to be autoclaved. Step 2 is collection of the plastic. We are establishing collection at the production point, at the bench, basically, which has been a challenge as well. I'm going to share with you the challenges that we encountered in establishing and applying and like rolling out the plastic recycling pipeline in the various institutes we are collaborating with. And the third step, which has been the most challenging, is actually identifying what happens with this plastic, right? So challenges in implementation. Of course, communication is key, you all know. The easiest you get, we are all living very stressful lives, very stressful lab lives. So anything that will add some time to our lab day we usually avoid it, right? So it's very important to be very clear and like make it as easy as possible for the scientists to change their behavior, basically. So we made these handy stickers we're sticking everywhere where plastic is collected, so that everyone knows where everything goes. The second and biggest challenge was actually figuring out what would happen to this plastic. Not all municipalities, we needed these projects need to be often tailored to the particular needs and particular availabilities of a region, right? Not all municipalities and not all countries have the same options of recycling plastics. For example, I come from Greece. This is a no-go there. This would never be an option there. It would have to be tailor-made in a different way there. But in Vienna, we're fortunate enough to have partners, to have recycling companies that would be willing to take up our plastic. What would happen to it? So we actually, in the absence of institutional support at this point, we had to go and contact and find partners that will be willing to tackle lab plastic, because also lab plastic is also a thorny subject, right? Where it's obvious that some institutional change needs to happen in order to convince basically waste management systems to change the rules here. So we found ways around this because we were encountering with a maze of subcontractors and waste companies that were were differentially willing to take up our lab plastic, and we found in the end a non-profit that is a short-term solution for now that would be willing to take our plastic, our recyclable plastic, and take it to a production company, which we followed all the way to the end. This is a non-profit that donates to charity the profits that come from recycling plastic here also. And we also established that our plastic is being recycled to a plastic company and not just burned for energy, which also happens in certain areas in Austria, at least. So what do we do with this? We established a very successful, at least locally, pipeline for tackling one of the major thorny problems in our lab lives. So of course, creating a network is a logical next step in order to share these resources. So you don't need me to tell you why joining a network is important at this point. If we're all here, I assume we've all made that step, right? It's the most efficient way to communicate ideas, to not reinvent the wheel, to gather support in all these challenges that can be extremely time consuming, since most of us are doing it on a voluntary basis outside our very stressful scientist lives, right? So as Hannah also mentioned before, we are also sharing our resources, organizing training events, and trying to collaborate with labs to find tailor-made solutions for their needs. Another close, I would like to talk a little bit about how do we even measure if we have an impact. One of the most disheartening things is like starting an initiative and then encountering resistance from the management, right? A lot of us belong to grassroots initiatives, and I'm sure everyone knows the pain of going through endless meetings and having people telling you this will not happen because we have no time, because we have been doing this forever, because, right? Or even your lab partners. So how do we even measure this? So at least on the technical side, I can see that at least persistence have enabled us to say that we can say now that we have had some success, at least, and I'm sure your initiatives had as well, in rolling out different sorts of projects like our plastic recycling pipeline in Austria. We are also in contact with major lab suppliers to start a project there, and we have also been successful in implementing LEAF, at least in Vienna, with the collaboration of other green initiatives, such as the Max Perutz Labs initiatives, who are also here. And we're trying to roll out this nationwide. We hope to roll it out within the next year. As was mentioned before, this is always a two-way street. So you can always go so far, starting from the bottom up, but you need eventually some top-down initiative. How do we even do that, and how can we maximize if we ever have an impact there? As you all know, this is the most boring and frustrating part of the game, right? This involves endless frustrating meetings and data gathering and convincing key figures and finding ways to get your message across. And I cannot stress this enough, but constant pressure is needed from our initiatives. So our existence has been key to driving home some changes that would never come just from the top up. Change is never going to come from the top up, we think, at least. So I'm happy to say that the existence of green labs and other green initiatives around Austria have driven home some change. There have been specific posts created, which was a long-standing demand of the community. Sustainability coordinators have been hired in the major universities around the country. We are involved by now, members of Green Labs are involved in decision-making bodies that advise the University of Vienna, at least the biggest university in the country, and whole institutes are rethinking their sustainability strategies after pressure from us and others. So it will be a constant struggle, and I don't think it will ever get easier, but creating networks such as SELs hopefully will maximize our impact to the European level. So thank you for your attention, and I cannot, there's too many people to thank. This is some of our funding members, And yeah, I'll be happy to answer questions. And I will hand over now to Rajnika Hirani from the Francis Crick Institute, who will introduce LEAN, the UK network of environmental.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So my name is Rajnika Hirani, and I'm Head of Sustainability at the Francis Crick Institute. And I'm going to talk to you about the Laboratory Efficiency Action Network, otherwise known as LEAN. It was founded in the UK in September 2015, and it's an organisation of individuals passionate about sustainable science working in academia. One of the main aims is to promote sustainable labs, efficient practices, and all forms of sustainability and environmental sustainability in science labs. LEAN acts as a forum for the sector where individuals can learn more about sustainable labs, and it tries to standardise, create, and promote resources on best practices for improving the sustainability of labs. LEAN is also trying its best to understand the best practices across a wide range of areas which influence lab sustainability, from practical daily actions to institutional strategies or even policy change. For example, lab behavioural change programs, equipment, energy efficiency equipment, and procurement and waste management, just to name a few examples. Sorry, I should have changed the slide. So LEAN also the sole purpose of LEAN is to promote sustainability in laboratory settings. There are no fees to join, and there's no cost associated with it. And the great thing about it, there's no sponsorship. It's an independent network, and it's not influenced by any private enterprise. LEAN is also, we found, really good for role development. So some of our technicians who are members have developed their roles and now become sustainable lab professionals. And I think Martin earlier from LEAF did Daniela, who I believe is one of the technicians that is now a lab professional. So some of the collaborative outputs of LEAN, sorry. So every 6 to 9 months, we have meetings, and these are all open to LEAN members. The standard agenda for the meetings are brief updates, which are really good because that's where members can find out what others are doing, knowledge share, find out what people are finding challenging when they're implementing sustainability initiatives. So it's all about learning and trying to not reinvent the wheel as well. LEAN also is, it tries to encourage people to contribute resources. So for example, if you are developing a policy, we try and ask people to actually see if they can share that with others so that you can either work together, or perhaps it's something that someone else doesn't have to start from scratch. They've got a template to work towards as well. So we've done that for example, job descriptions, sustainable lab roles, sustainable equipment guides, and sustainable consumable guides. So LEAN influencing up. As LEANs become, the membership increases and our resources are getting bigger, we're trying to aim to use our influence in a positive manner to lobby for sustainable labs with perhaps funding bodies, with higher education bodies, and even with suppliers. An example of this where we've done this is recently we've wrote a collective letter to the UK RI following their release of their environmental sustainability strategy. Also, we found that UK funders are actually stepping up to the plate, so to speak. So the Wellcome Trust have now got a climate directorate, and the UKRI have started to ask institutes what they are doing about lab sustainability. So I would suspect that in the very near future, we are probably going to be expecting targets set for people that our funders actually fund. So that was a very quick overview of LEAN from me. If you do want to know more, please ask me some questions, or please visit the LEAN website where you'll find further information. But that's all from me, and I will hand over to Vasiliki, who'll be talking about the FENS network.
Yes, okay, great. So first of all, welcome everyone and good morning. My name is Vasiliki Nikoletopoulou. I am an assistant professor at the University of Lausanne working in the field of neuroscience. And perhaps many of you don't know what FENS stands for or what it is. So let me explain briefly. So FENS stands for the Federation of European Neuroscience Societies. So it's a collection of national societies in neuroscience. And basically it is a leader in shaping the future of neurosciences and committed to very different objectives that are nicely summarized in this cartoon here. So you can see, for example, one commitment is having neuroscience done responsibly, being inclusive and diverse, for example, in terms of gender, equity, etc. And what you will see here at the bottom is sustainability. This has entered the vocabulary of FENS recently with the help of the FENS Kavli network that me and Jaime, who is also here, represent. So basically, sustainability has now become a goal, and FENS is trying to coordinate this for the neuroscience community. And basically, if I can change my slides here. So basically, to do so, I will try to discuss with you here now very briefly what is the benefit of partnering with the SELs network. This, as I mentioned, happened through the FENS Kavli network, which is a network of neuroscientists that are involved in promoting different outreach activities. And sustainability was one of these activities that Jaime and myself and others within the network supported and were involved in. So basically, FENS was one of the founding members of the SELs network. But now we are discussing what SELs can do for FENS in the immediate future, so in the next 1 to 2 years, to really shape sustainability within our discipline, our own discipline in neuroscience. And we came up with 4 major objectives. And I'm hoping that what I'm telling you here, which is very specific to neurosciences, can be inspiring for many of you coming from other disciplines, like I imagine that oncology or immunology or other disciplines within life sciences, or even other sciences. I saw a lot of physics in the chat, may also have similar federations, and perhaps can be inspired by what we do here with the neuroscience discipline. So the first objective is to create a SELs neuro website within the existing SELs website. And this is to act as a reference and as a hub for all the neuroscientists at different levels who want to get involved in neuroscience actions, in sustainability actions. So many of the tools and the resources that are out there are applicable across different disciplines, but one can get lost, and it's nice to also have it all together and explained how this can be useful for different types of research. And like as a parenthesis here, in neuroscience, we have very diverse types of labs, ranging from purely computational labs to those that combine computation and wet lab, and others that do field work and so on. So it would be very nice within this website to, in a way, categorize these resources to make it more accessible to people working in different types of neuroscience labs. So the second main objective is to work together on sustainability workshops and trainings. And this is something that we are already doing since 2 years, actually. And since SELs was at the very beginning. So we have so far done 2 workshops in the main FENS forum and FENS regional meetings, where in the first place we tried to raise awareness collectively in our community. So the idea is to continue these workshops and make them even more targeted for neuroscientists and more specific, as I said, to the different disciplines. We can envision becoming more and more practical about how a computational or an imaging lab or different activities within our labs can be made better or can be ameliorated to be more sustainable. And this is really what the aim of these trainings are, is to reach really the individual and change the way we do things practically in the lab and not as a general idea. This is, I think, the beauty of that. So third, but very important, FENS wants the help of SELs in order to collect data on sustainability. This can be data on plastic or on the carbon footprint of meetings. And this is important because it can be used, first of all, to improve the future meetings. And I heard already previously this being mentioned. These are meetings of several thousands of neuroscientists coming together, big venues. And even when they go virtual, there is still a footprint. And since last year, FENS has been quite serious about making their meetings more local and more sustainable, but still they lack data, and they also lack data analysis. And this is something that can come out from this collaboration and be also disseminated. And last but not least, we want to use at the end of the day all this knowledge that will be collected in the next 2 years to summarize what the impact of our discipline is, to discuss within our community what the new standards should be and how this can be in a way accepted and acknowledged across labs in different countries. So overall, this goes towards raising awareness and taking action all together in neurosciences in Europe. So we thought that this can be also disseminated by publications that are common between SELs and FENS that will discuss our experience and what we learn along the way. So this is all I had to say, actually, and I think importantly, if there are other federations such as this one for neuroscience, and if you guys have access or belong to such organizations, I think it is very important to engage also at that level. Actually, engagement is important at every level, starting from the individual, like Valeria showed that nice pyramid all the way to the top. But this is also a very effective way of engaging with SELs. And I guess I was the last speaker for this session. Who is next? Thank you all. And if you have comments, yeah, Valeria. And if you have questions, please ask them to Jaime. He will stay for the second part of the meeting today.
Well, thanks everyone to stay here for the whole first hour. It was great. I think there were like so many inspiring talks. I personally really enjoyed. I hope you did too. So yeah, we ended the first session incredibly on time. Now is we will move to the session 2 after a quick 5-minute break. So in the meantime, just have a walk or just relax for 5 minutes. And if you can, take a second device, because we're going to use Mentimeter in the second part. So it might be easier if you have a second device. And then, yeah, that's all. And we see you at 12:05. Thank you.
So my name is Hannah. You might recognize me from the first session for presenting Green Labs NL, but I will also be moderating the second session. So the second session is going to be a bit more interactive, and I hope that we were able to show you a little bit in the first session what the idea is behind SELs and the member networks and associations that are already getting involved, that founded SELs, what we're doing individually, but how we're hoping to kind of, by working together, we can bring that all together. So we also, of course, wanted to hear a little bit from you. So there were some quite nice questions in the chat. So we're just going to go to one of the main questions that came up. I think most of the questions were answered, but there was a question regarding funding bodies and what can funding bodies do to support initiatives like SELs and to support the sustainable science community. So I just wanted to hand over to Rajnika, who's going to answer this question. Rajnika?
Yes, hi. So I think in terms of funding bodies, I would say contributing with direct funding to specific projects, and also opening calls. So the MRC did have an open call, but I think we need more open calls from our funding bodies for grassroots initiatives. A third one, I would say, setting sustainable requirements in order to get funding, and having sustainable policies and strategies that give direction to the research community and targets too. And also, I guess from the SELs perspective too, would be funding projects and events and workshops that will enable everyone to knowledge share, network, and find out what people are doing and learning lessons from others.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very good, important point. Was there anyone else from the SELs network who wanted to add to what Rajnika was saying?
Well, if I may, hi, I'm Jaime, also from SELs, from FKNE FENS. So as Vasiliki was explaining, we're trying to collaborate with FENS, which is this large institution which has a certain budget, and hopefully we may be able to get some funding to go through some of the actions that Vasiliki presented. So they are interested in hearing exactly the type of actions we could do with them and collaborate. We're having a meeting in the coming weeks, and they may dedicate some of their annual funds to support our network and carry out some of these actions. So that would be one way of also getting some financial support.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jaime. So yes, I think definitely these are very important points, and again, you know, part of why we wanted to start SELs, to kind of collaborate these efforts on a European level. So as well as us presenting ourselves and SELs today and our different local and regional initiatives, we did want to really engage with you guys as well. So as we said in the break slide, if you could grab a second device, because we are going to use Mentimeter to be able to engage with you guys a little bit. But as well as that, we've actually already asked to invite a couple of people who are in the audience today who are going to come up and just quickly present what they are just doing. So they're not currently part of the founding networks of SELs, but just to kind of showcase what else is going on around Europe. And then we're going to hear a little bit from you and ask some questions. And we wanted to get a bit of feedback from these audience members as well. So first up, I would like to invite Naomi Bender, and you can tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Hi. My name is Naomi Bender. I'm a scientific project manager at the German Cancer Research Center. Do I need to share my slide? Maybe I should.
I think I'm sharing your slide at the moment. So
oh, right. Okay. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I'm a scientific project manager at the German Cancer Research Center. I did my PhD in tumor immunology, and now I'm working in the field of infections and cancer epidemiology. And in 2018, around that time, I became aware of the climate crisis. So I joined the local Scientists for Future group here in Heidelberg, where I'm still responsible for the Facebook and the Twitter account. But I realized, probably as everyone here as well, how energy and resource intensive my own work was. So I thought, why do we talk about the climate crisis and do research on it, but continue our work in a business as usual manner. So I co-founded the DKFZ Sustainability Group in 2020. We are around 50 people with 15 who are very active in various working groups. So our main focus is raising awareness in the different areas like waste, energy. We organize seminar series, stuff like that. Also procurement, because this is like a huge thing at DKFZ, and also the catering in our canteen. In parallel, I got involved in the network Helmholtz Climate Neutral. So my institute, the German Cancer Research Center, is part of the Helmholtz Association. It's a huge research association with, I think, 18 research centers at the moment from various research fields, so not just the life sciences. And this network was founded in November 2020, following an employee petition that asked for all the centers to reach net or zero emissions by 2035. Our main focus in this network is to accelerate the transformation towards net zero of the whole Helmholtz Association, so each center. And for that, we bring together the different sustainability initiatives or grassroots initiatives at the centers, but we also work closely together with other networks like the Max Planck Sustainability Network and others. Yes.
Great, thank you so much. And yeah, very happy to have you here today and to kind of happy to partake in this short panel discussion that we'll have. And so next up, we have Joana Michalis from Portugal.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Joana. I'm a researcher at I3S in Porto. And I'm here representing Green Labs Portugal. We are a network. We were founded a few months ago, so we are at our beginning, but nevertheless we have 9 members at the moment, including the biggest research institutions in Portugal, and also smaller ones, and even groups that they don't represent the whole institute, but they themselves want to be a part of the network. And so we are gathering big institutes and also smaller labs, individual labs, and the aim of the network, like I said, it started a few months ago in October 2021, and the idea was to share resources, share best practices, and also common actions. I can tell you that individually, locally, we are working in mostly the same areas, which is waste, lab waste, in particular plastics, also energy, and a bit of social waste as well. I am part of the I3S Green Lab initiative, but also coordinating the Green Labs Portugal. And like I said, our aim was to support each other because we are in different stages. Some of the teams are very advanced and very well established already. Others are starting, and we're trying to help each other. And we would like to join SELs also because that would be a way to support ourselves and also acquire more knowledge. Yeah, and also we want to do common actions between ourselves, and one of which is we have this project of gathering plastic, gathering the data on the plastic that we are using in the labs to share with Green Labs Austria, actually. So we are trying to get this data now. This is our first common action between the institutes. Because like I said, we are at our beginning.
Yeah, fabulous. That's really great again to have you here today, and yeah, definitely to see how yeah, you can join SELs and work with us. And so next up, I also wanted to invite Morena Lagubi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm happy to be here. We have a lot of amazing initiatives. So I'm an engineer in Gustave Roussy, so a famous cancer research center in France, close to Paris, as you can see in the picture. It's also a part of medical school of Paris-Saclay. Since 2020, my institute, Gustave Roussy, started a new project named Green. For Gustave Roussy begin a new era, but it's better in French. I also lead the research department group for Green. As you can see, there's different partners for different departments. Can you switch to the next one? Thank you. So be sure is the last one. I will just talk about the Green Research Department, not for the others. So we are like 20 ambassadors from PhD to researchers. We meet together bi-monthly to talk about feedbacks and initiative in our respectively life science labs. So firstly, we do the analysis of our carbon footprints. So French lab, I ignore if there is other French people here. We calculate our carbon footprint with specific application for French academic labs named Labo 1.5. So now I will talk about the classic reduce, reuse, recycle. So for initiatives, we try to reduce a lot our energy consumption with LED lights, for example, defrosting freezers, and installing plug-in timers for water baths, for example. We also start many years ago, stop disposable cup or water bottle with installation of fountain, with available flask or eco cup with corporate logos, you know. For orders, we try to reduce also. We have as a supply center, ignore if it's a commonly known system. So one brand give us a freezer with different product regions. And this way we can limit a lot all the packagings. We also reduce individual packaging because we work in a life science lab, so we have a lot of sterile individual packaging stuff. And we try to buy in a rack or bulk for disposable plastic. And more recently, since 2021, we have a collaboration with University Paris-Saclay Fab Labs to create tools to use easily bulk disposable plastics. So for reuse, we reuse disposable plastics because, you know, it's not an obligation to trash them after one use. So we wrote a lot of new procedures to reuse, for example, cell scraper, electroporation cuvettes, and etc. For many of us, maybe know the problem of tip boxes. So we use a refill system. Also, the other problem is styrofoam boxes, insulating boxes. So we have a take back program, but only with one provider, Promega, for people who know it. We try to engage many people in the circular economy for scientific instruments that can be used by another group. And I personally have a collaboration with Waste Group from my university. We try to develop a website for exchange all these scientific instruments. And for the end, we recycle. So for hospital, recycle cardboard and papers, but that's the only pipeline for recycling. And for other plastics, so for example, PET bottles or polypropylene packaging, we have collaboration with our providers for tech bag programs, for StarLab, for example, for Clear Lines or Pan Biotech, as I saw before. So that's it.
Great, thank you very much. And again, welcome to the panel discussion. So as I said, so we wanted to not only show you guys what SELs is doing and what the current member networks are doing, but to hear a bit from you all as well, to think about, you know, what direction SELs is going to go and how we can all work together in Europe. So we're going to have this short discovery session. So if everybody could grab a second device and go to menti.com, you could do this on your phone or if you have a second screen. So as well as these lovely three panel members who have introduced themselves, we do want to know a little bit about who is in the audience today. And there's a couple of questions we're going to ask, and Moana, Joanna, and Naomi, I'd love it for you guys to kind of comment on your experience with some of these as well. And I'll move on to the first question. So everybody has the code. So of course, we would love to know, as this is a European-wide meeting, where are you coming from? So if you just want to type in. Let's see. So we've got a nice widespread from Europe coming in there. A lot of different countries, really nice. Let's give another minute to see if there's anyone from somewhere else. We've people from Denmark, Netherlands, UK, Germany, Portugal, France, Ireland, Norway. We're reaching really far. It's really nice. Germany, Austria, Czech Republic. Okay, it's really great to see that there's people from so many different places. Really nice to see you all here, and welcome. Okay, next we kind of want to know, you know, because as again Valeria presented in the first session, SELs, we have a couple of different levels that we're looking to reach, from the individual level to people working at things on their lab level, at local initiatives such as Moana, Jan and Naomi have looked at, also to national networks. And we want to kind of see who is here today and what kind of interests there are going to be in regards to that. Yeah, so a lot of local initiatives, that's really cool. A couple of regional initiatives, because as we said, you know, one of the things we definitely want to facilitate is helping the local initiatives join together if you're from the same countries, especially to work together on a more national level or regional level as well. And a lot of individuals, it's really nice to see as well. Okay, great. And next question. So we've just asked you what level you're at, and maybe there's going to be some slightly different answers here. What level would you like to be on if you're working at a local initiative? Would you like to be part of a national network? If you're working as an individual, would you like support to, you know, learn how to engage with your lab or others in your local network, in your institute, for example? And of course, really great to see that so many people would love to be part of a regional or national network. And it's also really nice to see that people are really happy to work on an individual level as well. I think, you know, the fact that you're here today could show that even working as an individual in your community can really have a lot of impact as well. We can definitely support you with that. Really nice to see. Okay, so now we wanted to ask some questions, which I would really love to invite Moana, Joanna, and Naomi to come back to kind of comment on some of the things come up. So, you know, whatever level you're working on, what are the struggles that you're facing in sustainability? So maybe just to highlight as well that if you see something pop up, if you write it in the same way, it does get bigger. So that helps us see if people are really coming up with the same kind of issues. Management. Of course, I'll give it a couple of minutes for a few things to pop up, and then I'll invite the panelists back to discuss maybe some of their experiences with this. Time, lack of funding is something we already discussed, the funding. So maybe, yeah, Joanna, Naomi, and Moana, I'd like to invite you back to maybe talk about, because you're all looking at things from a different level. When you started as an individual, and Joanna, you're looking at something from a network level, like maybe you would like to comment on some of your experiences that you found with these things as well. And, you know, we can start to think about how working together might be able to help with this.
Yeah, maybe I can start. So in each initiative that I'm active in, people are doing this solely in their free time. They would invest more time and energy on their activities if it was possible. So the resource personnel is definitely something that we would need to be more, or to reach our goals faster. So one thing that we would need is maybe grants that we can apply for personnel costs. And then we don't have any budget at all. So I think funding is a big thing. Of course, in my opinion, we're doing that for our institutes. So sustainability will be good for our institutes. They would profit from that in the end. So I think the institutions should provide that, but at the moment they are not there yet.
Yeah, I can definitely see that funding, time and management seem to be the biggest ones. And of course, time and funding is very linked together. If we're able to get more funding bodies or local institutes to support funding, then maybe that will help with the time. Joanna or Morena, did you have any additional things on any of the things coming up on the screen?
So funding and time, yeah, that's also the issue around here. So all of us, I guess, are researchers doing all of this in their free time. So things sometimes take a while because we don't have that much free time. I guess from the point of view of the network, at least for now, because we are in the very beginning, the funding is not really for now an issue for us, or because I mean, for now we're just trying to organize a way to connect each other. It would be great to have a website, which is, I think, is still early on for that, but that will be in the future. But for the local people that working in the institutes, funding and we are, at least in I3S at Porto, we are thinking that at some point we will need to find more funding or individual funding for these type of actions, because we are getting bigger and bigger and having more actions every day, and we need also financial support for that. But yeah, at least for what I know, there's no, at least in I3S, there's no sustainable manager. So we are doing this alone. And yeah, so that's an issue.
Yes, it seems that these three are very linked, the big ones that have come up here, funding, time and management, that, you know, if you get the funding, then you have the time and you have the management support because there is the money there to do it. So I'll just move on to the next.
Can I
say something? Go for it.
So mainly we need cooperation, because all this, maybe not for money, but for many things in the proposition that struggles in the lab for sustainability is we do not have to reinvent the wheel, because sometimes we lost a lot of time by doing same things from other institutions. And with cooperation, with communication, with sharing initiatives, we will start from at the right side and do the right thing firstly, and will not lose a lot of time. And it's we need communication and cooperation. But I also agree that my manager say I lost a lot of time. I have to go back to the bench for working experiment. But we need all people engaged in this way.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, again, very happy to hear that from the SELs point of view, because it's why we wanted to come together to see if we could help facilitate this cooperation. So just moving on to the next question then. So this kind of goes towards the cooperation that we're talking about to everybody. So what kind of coordinated actions across Europe would you like to participate in? So I think you can choose a couple of answers here. So we'll see which ones get the most votes coming in. Yeah, a lot of ones going for workshops and trainings. That's nice. And research, very important. And again, to Milena, Joanna, or Naomi, are there any things that you would like to comment on here that you see from the different levels that you're working at, some things that might be useful? With Milena, maybe you were talking about cooperation, so how can we do some of these things, do you think?
Maybe I can say something about research, because, for example, my colleagues are not okay to increase the temperature of freezers from -80 to -70 because the lacking of data, scientific data about stability of samples, because there is only cooperative data for the moment about stability of RNA, proteins, everything. So we need a specific data, scientific one, to convince all people we do the right thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, again, by sharing the resources and doing data together will help back that up. Joanna?
Yeah. Let me add something about this -80, -70 issue. We also struggle a lot with the researchers so they can actually drop or increase the temperature on the ultra freezers. We manage I'm now talking about I3S, not the network. My local initiative was able to switch about 9 ultra freezers to -70 after a bit of a battle, but also after having a workshop in which we showed data, we showed papers, and presented to the researchers, and some of them accepted. I mean, people that working with human samples and things that are very precious, they don't want to change, and I understand that, we understand that. But for a lot of people, it's okay to have it at -70, and they also understand that after we show them some data. I mean, there's not a lot of data, but there are already some. So we try to educate them via an event and workshop for all the group leaders, and some of them actually changed the ultra freezer's temperature.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good point, kind of talking about, as much as we've separated some of these workshops and trainings and research and organized events, they kind of go hand in hand as well, to provide the research there and then give people the workshops and the trainings to give people the confidence to be able to take the sustainable actions. And Naomi, did you want to comment on anything that you see here?
Yes, so at the moment, sustainability is something people who are already interested in participate in these workshops, in these trainings. So what would be important from my point of view would be, as a network, as a European-wide network, I think we have the strength or the opportunity to contact the higher levels and offer such workshops to people who are not looking for these workshops, who don't know about these things, so that we break out of the bubble, and targeted campaigns. I think that's what you meant by targeted campaigns, right? So to contact the people who are leading institutions or departments.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, from the presentation from Vasiliki and Jaime was talking about, from getting associations like FENS on board can be really important, because indeed then you're not reaching the people that are actively joining sustainable lab networks, but that are part of an association already and a network already where this comes up quite often. So yeah, really nice to see. And again, we're obviously wanting to use this to gather data for ourselves to understand what we can do as SELs to support the community, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So next question. Let me go to the next question. Okay, there we go. Okay, so, oh yeah, it went too far. There we go. So which European bodies do you believe we need to actively engage with here? So we're talking about, funding has come up quite a lot, but, one of the ones before we're talking about maybe suppliers as well, or government policies, like in your own experiences. So everybody in the audience, yeah, who do you think that we should engage with on a European level? So that you can type a couple of answers.
Sorry,
and, yeah,
I think we're in the. Oh no, sorry.
Good. You guys can see it, okay? Yeah, so governments, the EU Commission, of course, ERC, so funding body, that's interesting there, the funding agencies, European parliaments. And again, maybe Joanna, because you guys have started the Portuguese network, have you thought about also, you know, at a national level, like how you guys might want to do this and how support on the European level could support some of this?
Yeah, I think we haven't talked about European, in the sense of European engaging in European bodies, but we think that it'd be important to engage with the government, because most of the funding for research in Portugal comes from the government. So the foundations here in Portugal, the foundation here in Portugal. I think it would be very important to actively engage with that specific foundation, the Portuguese foundation, and the government as well, because they are the ones that set the policies. So I think that would be very, very important. How to get there, we still haven't found a way to do it, but we need to grow and find the support in each other, so then we can try to reach to those bodies. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think quite interestingly, I'm seeing universities quite big here. So I think that's also a really interesting one, because as much as they can be national and regional, indeed, when we're talking of the European levels and when we have things like Erasmus coming up, that universities and education is actually very important.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
In my university, but I know it's also the case in Porto, there is a group of different European universities named UGLO. So that want to engage staff and students for mobility globally. And when I talk with them about sustainability, they say, hey, that's a good idea. But for the moment, it's really, really the beginning. But they start to focus on sustainability and mobility for students and staff. And for example, not pay for plane for everybody, but if we exchange people from one university to another one, to keep in mind sustainability have to be a part of the exchange of people.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, I think, you know, thinking about how Europe works with the like fluid mobility of people going in places, to get universities on board with having some of these policies could be very important. So I'll just move on to the next one, just for the sake of time, because we will go to the breakout rooms. And that's what I wanted to find out, if everybody is ready to head to the breakout rooms. So yeah, it was really great to kind of have a bit of a discussion here, but we also do want to hear a little bit more from everybody that were available. So we're just going to go into some breakout rooms for around 15 minutes, and each of the rooms will be hosted by one of the members of SELs that presented earlier. And we just want to talk about like looking at some of these things where we need action to go forwards. What could we do as SELs for you guys? Like how could SELs help with some of these initiatives? So I think I believe you will now be put into your breakout rooms, and we will call you back in about 15 minutes. So enjoy, and we'll see you then. Thanks everyone. Sorry to cut your probably really fun conversation short. Just wait for all the rooms to close. So if you head back to your second device, the last question on Mentimeter should be open now, as you can see. And we want to know, what can SELs do to support you? So hopefully you had some really nice, interesting conversations there, so you can start putting them in the Mentimeter, and we can have a look at some of them. So promotion and advertisement, spreading the word about sustainability, collaboration. We've talked a lot about this, that this is very important. So yeah, feel free to add what you talked about in your breakout rooms there. So connecting, creating a manifest for European scientists that want to make their labs more sustainable. I think that that's a really great idea. So creating a platform, that's exactly what to do. Having meetings like this to connect with each other. Workshops, we've seen that that's definitely a popular one. to go there. Know more about specific ways to actually reduce the waste. So I think we've seen some great things coming out from local initiatives. So really sharing a lot of that information and advice there, I think will be definitely very useful in the way we can do this. And as we've seen, funding, definitely trying to get the funding agencies and governments on board. Ideas and resources, having a nice place for these all to be in the same place. Supporting technical staff. I think we've heard a lot that, you know, especially from the Lean network, that technical staff will be able to professionalize into sustainable lab positions. So getting a lot of the technical staff who are doing the work in the labs as well, support them with resources, but also, yeah, maybe professionalization as well is a great idea. Let's see what else is coming in here. Centralized data, I think we've seen very important. Funding bodies, recommendations for dry lab research, more of this. Career development, new posts and jobs. So yeah, definitely kind of supporting the actual time and investment that people can spend on this to help their colleagues be more sustainable is very valuable. Expanding to more disciplines. Obviously, yeah, we talked, yeah, I think a lot of the networks do focus in the biology, but going to more disciplines is also very important. Just having a look at a couple more. Gathering data, gathering people, gathering quantifications, guidance, workshops, supporting new grassroots initiatives. Definitely, that's exactly what we'd love to do and are all about. Engaging together, collaborating, getting PIs on board. So management, as we saw, was one of the ones that came up a lot that people you know, do struggle with. So getting the management and your PIs and such on board. Yeah, so a couple of really great things there. So I'm going to hand back over to Valeria, who will do the closing remarks.
Well, I personally really enjoyed the breakout room. I hope you did as well. We had really good ideas. And yeah, we're going to collect them all and then send it to you, discuss, and also use them kind of to define our strategy for the near future. So, well, as a closing remarks, just I invite you all to join us. So if you go on our website and then you can click on the Join Us tab and then fill the form. I want to stress that we want to help you as much as we can, and we really want to hear from you and from your ideas. So please feel free to contact us. There will be, so that this event was recorded, so the video recording and all the useful links that were shared, plus other information, will be sent to all the registrants via email soon after this meeting. And yeah, with that, can you change slide? We, yeah, just really thank you all for stick with us until the end. Those are our contacts. Also, please use the feedback form. We're going to also share it in the chat. It would be really nice to hear from you after the event what you think. And thanks again for being here. I hope you enjoyed the meeting.